It's not good news, but I think it reflects a straight line projection. And it's going to make the markets nervous, but it doesn't necessarily predict what's going to happen.
I would be much more nervous if they said everything looks great,
That's true.
things are wonderful, when we all know they're not.
Okay. Also getting a bit of news that Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, has left India. He was there meeting with leaders. That's according to one of his, a spokesperson for him. He was also in Pakistan just yesterday to talk about the Mumbai terror attack, so he's on his way back to the States. Getting back to that issue, so you say this has to be high on the priority list for the next administration. Obama, of course, yesterday announced that Bill Richardson would be as Secretary of Commerce. He has an interesting group of people who are going to be in that cabinet, from Hillary Clinton to Bill Richardson. You kind of have to consider Bill Clinton to be sort of a shadow cabinet member in a way, too. So how do you think Bill Clinton is going to affect what his wife does? And I know that Bill is going to have to submit his speeches ahead of time and all that, but is Barack Obama really going to be able to control Bill Clinton?
Well, Frank, you've worked with him. What do you think?
The last rumor was that he's a potential replacement for Hillary in the Senate.
I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
That story broke a day or two ago. That would be one solution. They'd have him tied down in the Senate, and he wouldn't be.
Or I'd appoint him to the Supreme Court faster than you could wait.
I don't know. Did anyone see his interview a couple days ago where he said essentially, I'm going to be a sounding board for my wife, and I think that is true to an extent, but I think we all know that he still wields a lot of power around the world, and
is very well thought of.
Right, exactly. So
yeah, I have to say, I think Obama has set this up very well in terms of talking about a team of rivals, because unlike the Bush administration, where everyone was supposed to act in lockstep with Bush, and when somebody broke with the administration, it was a huge deal. Obama has set this up so that this is part of the story. It's part of the narrative that people are going to have differences of opinion about policy. They're going to have differences of opinion about the right thing to do. And that debate can actually play out in public without, I think, the risks to Obama's reputation that it would have had for Bush. And so, in some ways, I think, bring it on.
Yeah, let 100 flowers bloom.
And without the headline being, there are all these rivalries, all of these arguments going on between senior administration officials and cabinet officials. Remember when Treasury Secretary Snow, he started going off the script, and President Bush did not like that all too well. He did not last too incredibly long. So at least Obama is setting this up, as you say, for disagreement.
Yeah.
We can expect some disagreement.
And in fact, the more public that he makes it, the better he looks.
The what? I'm sorry?
The more public that he makes it, the better he looks.
Nobody
he has
has
the
any
final
incentive to
decision.
leak.
I mean, people can disagree all they want. It comes back, at the end, it comes
He's the
down to
decider
his
in chief.
decision.
I think also...
No, I was just at an obvious reflection, and that is, look at the team that's been brought to the table.
Oh, it's incredible.
Tim Geithner, you can't beat him for Treasury. Hillary is a deeply experienced internationalist who knows her way around the world. Richardson, former ambassador to the UN, a man who has lived American politics, run a great state. Terrific choice. Jim Jones.
Brilliant
you don't
choice.
get a better military officer
And
with
Gates.
a deeper sense. Gates continuing on. What really I think we can all look at is say, Mr. President, well done.
Yeah.
You have brought the best of America forward at one of the most dangerous periods in our history.
It's like
And
JFK.
so if we have a little noise on the edges, that's fine. We want talent. We want the best advice coming to the president, and he certainly has set it up for that task.
In fairness, though, Hillary Clinton doesn't have a strong international resume. Some would argue that she...
I disagree.
That
I do too.
Look, I ran against her, and I'm
Of course, she's visited a lot of countries with her husband. She's a very smart and dedicated woman. But Bill Richardson may have been the more logical choice for Secretary of
Let me
State.
tell you, I think that the important thing is she's now probably the single biggest female superstar in the world. And anybody that she sits across from on the negotiating table has to think a couple of things. We know all about her. And you know what? She could end up being president of the United States someday. And
Yeah,
so
she
I
was.
think that totally changes the conversation. She knows the
Yeah.
issue. I ran against her, okay, so I'm not a big Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton fan. But I've got to say, I think it's a brilliant choice. She's a tough woman.
Yeah.
She's a hawk. She's going to be a hawk at the State Department. You've kind of got a dove at the Defense Department. You're going to see the most. What I would love to be part of is those interagency meetings where they argue over who gets what budget. Because you're going to have the Secretary of Defense saying the State Department needs more money, and you're going to have the Secretary of State saying, you know, the Pentagon, they really need those weapon systems to be tough. It's going to be just great.
That's funny. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think Hillary Clinton, because she was a presidential candidate, and one who had didn't win, but certainly had a strong possibility of succeeding. And was a first lady and knows all those people. She can go into any capital, and when Obama is, I think, as we expect, he's going to be, as demanding as the international scene is, he's going to be very, very focused on the economy. It's great that he can send somebody who's sort of presidential caliber, and I just don't think Bill Richardson really brought that to the table in the same kind of a way.
So what we need now, in other words, is star power. To
think
be
it
able
makes
to
a big
Don't
difference.
underestimate star power in the international scene. I think it makes a big difference. I mean, look at Jackie Kennedy. What did she do in star power? She sort of turned around an administration because she was glamorous. Look at Sarkozy's wife, who's related to Frank, and Mrs. Sarkozy, Carla Bruni, a famous Italian movie star, actress, songwriter, whatever. I mean, she wowed the Queen of England. So I think I wouldn't underestimate it.
I'm with KT, but let's remember, star power without strategy.
Yeah, well,
Without real policies.
No, I'm not saying putting Britney Spears in that.
Without a
They tried,
disciplined
right?
approach, we are not going to get out of the multiple different
I love that line. You
Absolutely.
can't have star power without strategy.
Yeah.
A question for you. This is coming in out of Nathan from Dallas, Texas, talking about the idea that Israel could potentially attack Iran. They say, he says, if Israel were to attack Iran, wouldn't they have to fly through or go through Iraqi airspace, which we control? Doesn't that create problems with us being an accessory to the attack if we allow them through the airspace? How does that work?
Well, your questioner is absolutely
He's right, yeah.
There technically are ways you can refuel and avoid Iraqi airspace, but very difficult. But I would add to it, I don't care if the Israelis went over Iraq or not. We will still be assumed around the world to be complicitous in the Israeli attack.
Unless we were to shoot down the Israeli aircraft as they overflew, and we're not going to do that. So I think you're right.
We wouldn't do that? If Israel didn't consult us before an attack and they launched an attack, you don't think that America would try to stop it?